Assalamu alaikum, you're watching Views and News and I'm Faisal Rehman live from our Islamabad studios. Today we'll be talking about this rising Islamophobia in India. Now this is not something very new, but now it seems that the BJP government is so committed to make sure that hatred against Muslims and in particular minorities, and in specific again I would say the Muslim population of India. What they're doing now is they're trying to make sure that first of all they won't be regarded as the first grade citizens, number one. Second aspect is that since the Hindu majority and their influence is so overwhelming that perhaps the Muslim living in India, whether a woman or a man, elderly or a child, it is now very difficult. Slowly but surely the kind of concept, the kind of laws they introduced in the Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, now they are being reflected in the Indian culture as well. Whether you talk about the extreme east of India or you talk about the west, you talk about areas like Kashmir or you go further down south, you'll see that Hindu domination is pretty visible. Now another very important aspect, when you talk about the BJP leaders, look at their language, the kind of venom they have against the Muslims. There is no action taken against them. Their courts are biased, their government is biased, their military is inclined towards BJP, especially anti-Pakistan sentiments are being promoted left, right and center and at every level. The ideology of Gandhi doesn't exist in India anymore. He was a secular person who was again killed and murdered by an extremist, and he was not a Muslim, he was a Hindu from BJP, Bharatiya Janata Party, and this RSS concept perhaps. Now what is happening in India is something the world should know about. Now we'll be talking about this in detail. Let me introduce you to our guest, but before that our production team has prepared a report. Let's watch that first.
India, whose religious minorities are under severe communal threat under the BJP's Narendra Modi's regime due to his terroristic-tinted, intolerant and brutal policies, is once again under the severe international diplomatic criticism after BJP's two core party members gave insulting remarks against Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Pakistan's President Arif Alvi and Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif in their separate statements condemned the heinous act, as well as the Indian Charge d'Affaires was summoned by Pakistan Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and Government of Pakistan's categorical rejection and strong condemnation of the highly derogatory remarks was conveyed. In the realm of international diplomatic protests, India's ambassador to Kuwait and Qatar were summoned to receive official notes of the protest over these derogatory comments. Foreign Ministry spokesperson of Qatar in this realm said that the state of Qatar calls on the Indian government to immediately condemn these remarks and publicly apologize to all Muslims around the world. The General Secretariat of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation also strongly condemned and denounced this incident of denigration of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. The statement added that these cases of defamation are part of growing spate of hatred and defamation of Islam in India and systematic practices against Indian Muslims. Saudi Arabia's Foreign Ministry also condemned this act and declared these comments insulting and called for respect for beliefs and religions. Though BJP's national spokeswoman Nupur Sharma and BJP's Delhi media operation head Naveen Kumar Jandal were suspended, still the religious hatred which BJP has inculcated in Indian politics will haunt Modi's regime in a longer run, as the hypocrisy of the India's secular democracy is slowly starting to unveil in front of the international community. India.
Now to talk about this, we have with us in our studio, on my right is Yasir Janjua, Senior Analyst. Janjua sir, thank you so much for your time, sir.
Thank you.
And we have with us on Skype, Parvez Jamil Malik Saab, Senior Journalist, commonly known as P. Jamil. P. Jamil Saab, pleasure to have you in the show, sir. Thank you very much for your time as well. And on phone, we'll be talking to Dr. Asma Shakir Khawaja Saiba. She is the Executive Director of CISS AJK. And thank you very much, ma'am, for your time as well. But let me put the first question to you, Yasir Janjua Saab. These derogatory remarks, I mean, this is not the first time that we've been hearing. But yes, certain sentiments were always played with by the Western world. Denmark or sometimes Norway or somebody from France Charlie Hebdo case is one of the known one. And then the hue and cry would be all over the world. Few countries would react the way Pakistan does, but few would remain silent and be very neutral. But in this case, sir, again, when you look up and you see that the sentiments have been flared up again by the Indians, BJP leaders of the Muslim majority, just to see the level of sentiment. And this is what they do. This is not the first time, sir. So is it a pre-planned, proper, thought-out strategy that is being implemented in India, sir, where BJP ultimately is going to take over, the ideology of Gandhi will be eroded as it is now, sir. India is no more secular. And this extremist Hindutva regime is going to be the real face of India. Your take?
Faisal, thank you very much. Ever since Modi has been re-elected as the Prime Minister of India, he's been taking his agenda forward of making sure that India is no longer secular. And he and his people have been very, very clear in saying, we don't actually have much of a problem with other minorities. We have a problem with Muslims, because the Muslims are the ones who threaten them, because there's a large number of segment of society which is converting to Islam. However, unfortunately for us, this is not the last time this has happened. This is going to happen again, because our toothless OIC and the leaderships of the leading Muslim countries in the region can only give statements of condemnation. Why can't we take concrete steps as a Muslim? We should realize that this is a very, very, very dear subject. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there is nobody for us more than our parents. Everybody else comes secondary. So why can't we take a stock of this situation once for all? If Holocaust denial can be a crime in Europe, why can't this be a crime? And if it becomes a crime, these Muslim states, including Pakistan, should take measures whereby the Hindus feel the heat. And unfortunately, they get the MFN status from all these Arab countries. Don't you know? The Indians accorded the highest civilian award to the current ruler of UAE, who was then the Crown Prince. He was invited to India on the Republic Day parade.
They had earlier given this highest civil award to Narendra Modi, Saudi Arabians.
Yeah,
UAE,
and the Saudis gave them. So what are we looking at? It is the dual standards, because they say, oh, economy. Forget about the economy. For us,
don't you think, sir, that these morals, these values, these ethics do not belong anymore in this 21st century?
Unfortunately, you are right.
And old and obsolete concepts. The new game is called the economic diplomacy. Your money and my money, can they both put together produce more money?
Simple can you not see
the
UAE, Bahrain, and a couple of other countries have accepted Israel, which is something which we have been fighting for the last 75 years.
And it was their problem, not ours.
So similarly,
it was an Arab issue.
But this issue is even bigger. Now former Prime Minister Imran Khan raised this issue vocally around the world and made sure this year on the 15th of March was declared the day against Islamophobia. However, just declaring a day against Islamophobia is not enough. The world community, the Muslim leaders of the world have to rise up. And I think this should be taken as the right time to make sure that this does not happen again.
Well, this is what I call wishful thinking. But let me take this same mindset to PJ Mir Saab, and let's see whether he agrees or not. PJ Mir Saab, you heard what Yasir Janjua Saab just said. He still believes that a lot can be done if the Muslim countries are together. Come on, so historically, if you have seen what they've been up to even till now it's a different ball game. Alignments are changing, blocks are being formed, and it is a very clear, I would say the writing is so damn clear and so bold on the wall. I hope that people could read and understand. And when I read and I try to gather what I'm getting that from, it seems that now the New World Order is in place. This Muslim Brotherhood concept is pretty obsolete. Now, It's more about trade. It's more about economic diplomacy. It's more about trade, investments, and what kind of favors can you get and can you give to others. That is what is more important now, sir. What is your take, sir?
Well, first of all, I'd say I totally agree with him, Janjua Saab. What we do is we always react. We are not proactive. We are reactive. Um, Look at the Kashmir issue, and then look at the genocide, which was happening in Kashmir. We always react to it, but we don't say anything else. And Faisal, in your shows, I've stressed in front of the Prime Minister, the former Prime Minister, that we need to be acting on the front foot against what the Indian propaganda is. Let me tell you before answering your question, Raw is continually now putting pressure on FATF by arresting and involving our top businessmen around the world and saying that they are doing money laundering and drug dealing, and which means that Pakistan is supporting them, and hence this is their ploy to put us on the blacklist. Now, coming on to here, what the spokespeople, well, that lady and that gentleman, well, I shouldn't call him a gentleman, but these scoundrels, I can digest perhaps their criticism on Pakistan about Kashmir. I can digest a lot, but I cannot digest something when anybody speaks against the Holy Prophet. And what they said and what the OIC, how they have responded, I think that was absolutely peanuts. Each individual head of the Arab states should have come out and openly criticized India for defaming the Holy Prophet. None of them have come out. We all know OIC is a paper tiger. OIC is absolutely defunct organization. They themselves have so many differences. So why isn't that King of Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and others, they don't come out? Because there is an international lobby out there, and as you mentioned just now, out there, people are recognizing Israel. The UAE is the latest. I've been in Israel covering the war in 2006. There was already a present Saudi embassy out there, although they hadn't recognized it. But over a period of time, they have done it. Now, the question here arises, where are we going wrong? I'll tell you where we're going wrong. Where we are going wrong is our lobby isn't good enough. What we do is that when we had frontiers like the Kashmir centers in Brussels, in Washington, in London, Raw played a brilliant card as far as they're concerned, and we closed our embassies, these unofficial embassies. We used to tackle and counter all propaganda, what the Indians used to have against us in the European Union, in England, and of course in the United States. But today, I mean, look at this. I feel ashamed of calling them an Ummah. Our Prime Minister has been one of the first to condemn, the Indian this narrative. So I think what we need to be doing is we need to be, getting our PR, international PR, on the front foot and counter India in the same breath as they do, because none of the Indian BJP leaders have also come out and condemned it. Okay, they've suspended them or thrown them out of their offices. Well, that's not good enough. That's not good enough at all. Now here, if you remember in Norway and Sweden, when the caricatures were out, how we reacted. What other Muslim country reacted? No one. So I think
because of the vested interest, simple as that, Nisab. That is where the problem lies.
Exactly.
That is
absolutely, Faisal. And
most important factor. So you have lived abroad, you have lived in UK, and obviously, I mean, when you talk about hate speech, they do understand what it means, and inciting violence for that matter. I mean, anything that can lead to any sort of destruction, perhaps physical or otherwise, that is inciting. But sir, unfortunately, in Pakistan, which unfortunately I would use this word twice, has been maligned over and over again by the Indians. You talk about Pakistan, sir. Honestly speaking, we are a very loving nation, but certain incidents, unfortunately, whenever they happen, for example, that Sialkot incident, the way it was projected by the Western media, and in particular by the Indians, I mean, that killed the reputation of Pakistan. No matter what you say and what you do, that is what people saw on the television screens, and that is what the truth is. But having said that, so when we talk about Indian, I mean, no Western media reports. This is how their lobby has been working. And you said, as far as Roy is concerned, they are playing their cards brilliantly. Now coming to you, Yasir Saab, very important factor. And that has been, again, this particular point has been raised by PJ Mir Saab, proactive approach versus reactive approach. And I 100% agree with them, reactive approach. I mean, no concrete steps have been ever taken. Look at the GCISS countries, they are so strong. Forget about the African countries which do not have that kind of an influence. For that matter, at the end of the day, it is Pakistan or Turkey or Malaysia or perhaps one or two other Muslim states that would come up with a clear-cut narrative on this issue, sir. Prophet is equal to all the Muslims, all the 57 countries and all those Muslims living in other countries. For example, India. There are more than, the total population of Muslims in India is more than that of Pakistan. But again, look at Bangladesh, not even a single word uttered by their Prime Minister against Narendra Modi or BJP for that matter. This is what the dilemma is. Muslim Ummah, as they call this Ummah, is divided. They have their own vested interests. Few have inclination towards the Americans, pro-Indian side, whereas I think we need to do a lot on the diplomatic front. What do you say?
I think wait and see. This time I think.
So we've been waiting and seeing for the last 75 years.
I know.
How long do we need to wait
You're absolutely right that we are divided as Ummah, but however, never before has the response been so severe from the GCC countries as has been this time. So I am very hopeful that they'll wake up to this occasion and take stock of this Indian brutality and take stock of the situation and punish the Indians. If the GCC countries alone stand up to the task and start punishing India, India will come to its feet.
Why would they do that, sir?
Now this is the question, why would they do that?
Getting the beef from India, they're getting so many other products
however,
from India, sending so much of stuff to India,
but
selling
what they've
oil
done
to India.
this time, they've never done
Qatar
before.
you're talking about, sir. Qatar is one of the largest exporter of LNG to India. And look at the bilateral trade, totally in favor of Qatar.
Now this is where the Ummah is divided. That's what we have been saying and talking. If they don't do this, this is going to happen again and again. It's going to happen in India, it's going to happen somewhere in Europe. We have to take a stock of this. We have to be proactive. PJ Mir was absolutely right.
When you say you need to be proactive, what do you need to do?
Now,
don't you think
as a first step of being proactive,
platform that you have
as a first
is your
step,
foreign office?
As the first step of being proactive, Pakistan was able to correctly lobby the case and declare 15th of March as the day against Islamophobia. That was the first step. However, a lot more has to be done, and there has to be continuity in that policy, whether there is another government or not, but the policy, the state policy remains the same. Governments come and go. Now that has to happen. And the Pakistani government, but ironically, Pakistani government is in itself in such mess right now that they probably don't have time to talk about these things. Otherwise, if it was a stable political environment, Pakistan should have taken the leadership role and gone to Turkey, gone to Malaysia, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar and all these countries and made sure that this issue, can you forget this? We only have few months ago had the OIC summit on this
Pakistan
issue.
As a country, do we have the capacity and enough wisdom to convey to the GCC
no, you're
countries?
Wrong. In terms of acumen and wisdom, I think we are far better than them. We're far ahead of them. And that's why you saw in March this year.
They're not ready to listen to you, sir.
In March this year, they all came here.
How many countries have practically, let's say, voted against Kashmir? I mean, one or two statements are just there for the sake of being
Leave Kashmir aside for a moment.
Really, no, sir, because
Prophet Muhammad is much bigger than Kashmir issue. The question is, we had this summit here in Pakistan in March this year, and it was a single point agenda. Exactly this point, Islamophobia was the agenda of that conference. Now, unfortunately, few days later, the government went away. Did we do anything afterwards as a follow-up of that meeting or that conference? There had to be certain actions. But unfortunately, political instability in Pakistan would not let us do those things. Otherwise, Pakistan was
what about the rest of the country? They should also take the initiative. Now, you don't have to tell them what to do. Prophet is the same
They have to.
For people in the Middle East, for people in the Far East, for people living in the subcontinent, for
Faisal,
people
but when
in
you
the
say
Central
being
Asia.
proactive, no, when you say being proactive, I can't wait for the Saudis or the UAE guys to take some action. I have to take stock of my own actions. So I should do whatever I'm supposed to do. Let them do or think what they want to do. At least we should do what we have to do. We wait for them to take the leadership role. No, we should take the leadership role ourselves.
So let me go to Asma Khawaja Saiba. Thank you very much, ma'am, for joining us. Now, ma'am, since we're talking about this rising Islamophobia in India, anti-Muslim statements were always there, but anti-Prophet now, Zubillah, this statement is something, ma'am, which is very, that cannot be digested. Forget about it. Now, we are talking about the reaction of various countries. I mean, when we talk about Muslim Ummah, ma'am, I mean, this seems to be some very obsolete kind of a concept or a narrative, ma'am, doesn't exist, because most of these so-called the Muslim Ummah countries, they've been fighting amongst each other for such a long time. I mean, isn't Yemen a Muslim country, or Iraq, or perhaps Palestine, or you talk about Syria, and there's a long list, ma'am. I can go on and on and on. Now tell us, I mean, where exactly are we going wrong? What needs to be done? When we say we, ma'am, it's an issue of the Muslim Ummah. Obviously, we as Pakistanis, we also feel the pain. But ma'am, West has been doing that.
Definitely, this is a very, very important and sacred Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is very, very important and sacred prophet for Muslims. And we all know that whenever historically blasphemic incidents happen, Western and the US, West and the USA, they took a neutral stand, and they said that it is the part of the right to speech for everyone. Unfortunately, although they themselves, they don't believe in right to speech, because in the same country, people cannot comment on Holocaust. So it means that there are certain issues in every civilization and in every region of the world on which they don't want others to comment, especially critically. And when it comes to the Hindutva perpetrators or propagandists, when they don't respect Muslims, when they consider Muslims as untouchable, when the basic premise of their Hindutva ideology is established on the hatred towards Muslims and to create barriers between us versus them, and Muslims are them, and the culmination of their ideology is to eliminating Muslims from South Asia, then how can we even imagine that they would have any respect for Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam? How would, if they are unable to respect humans equally, if they are unable to delete or eliminate or dilute the divide?
Madam, this current government and their mindset cannot be overchanged on your wish or on my wish.
When they cannot respect human beings,
I mean, if that narrative is so strong,
is more precious
and they're working
to
day and night to impose that kind of a mindset over the entire Indian population, and unfortunately, ma'am, that narrative is being bought and very well accepted by the Indian majority. Your election results, that tells us what is happening and how this BJP is getting so popular.
We are talking about Hindutva, which prefers cow on a living human being, on the life of living human being, which are unable, because cow has some.
So, ma'am, that cannot be changed tomorrow morning. They'll start loving and hugging a Muslim and start slaughtering a cow.
Indian media endorses or legitimizes violence.
So they have their agenda and they're doing it well. What are we doing? That's the concept. Because we always condemn. We are again being reactive, and that is not going to serve the purpose, ma'am.
We are not even reactive.
What steps, what measures should be taken?
As Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is most important and sacred human being for each and every Muslim on this earth. It is not our problem. It is all Muslims across the globe. They should take the lead. They should raise their voice. They should act like a pressure group. They should realize, the international community, that it is not a joke to comment on Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam.
Now, ma'am, one question.
Cannot get up and hurt our feelings in this regard.
All right. Now, PJ Mir Saab, if I may ask you a very direct question, because it is directly related to this particular story, I would say. Sir, if you remember, when the French government was under a lot of pressure, and this group of Tehreek-e-Taliban, not Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, this Maulana Saab, I'm forgetting his name, the one who died and now his son is in charge, Tehreek-e-Labbaik. Now, this particular group was out, Mir Saab, and they were on the roads. They had blocked almost every nook and corner of India and Islamabad, and rather, in fact, in certain other big cities as well. And their one agenda was primarily to send the French envoy back, so that there should be a message. And this was the time when Imran Khan Sahib was in power. But interestingly, sir, he did leave for some time, I remember, but it wasn't disclosed. But the point is that now the French embassy is working and working fine. Though that was not something that was done by the French. I mean, the president normally utters something, or some journalist would come up with some sort of an idea. But in this case, there is no condemnation from the BJP top leadership that, certain words should not be said, and that is not the right representation of the BJP, and nothing happened. But, sir, there was no reaction shown by those parties as well against the Hindutva mindset or something, because I think if they give a call for a protest, entire Pakistan is going to be out on this particular issue. Mir Saab?
Faisal, Faisal, you have taken the question or the answer out right from our mouth. Number one, like I said before, there's defamation of the Prophet through caricatures and others, and the whole country here, Pakistan, burns our places out. And they go out on the roads, as so much as in the French as well. Where are these mullahs and all these obscurantists? Where are they? Why aren't they coming out on the road? I mean, I'm not in favor of these political jalsas and all this kind of stuff, whether from the opposition or from the government. I am more interested in a jalsa, in a protest, as far as the Prophet is concerned.
Absolutely.
I want these people to be out on the roads. I want these people to tell the world what Pakistanis and Muslims think about them. None of them has come out. So what is their agenda? Where are they going? What are they up to? So I think this is a time, this is a wake-up call. Like, I think all of us, even, Asma and of course, Yasir Sahib, they'll all agree. We can differ with everybody on every subject, but we will not differ and not compromise as far as the Holy Prophet is concerned, period. And here, I feel sorry. I feel really sorry that we are the only country, the only Muslims in this world, the only Islamic country in this world, and rest of them, they proclaim themselves to be Islamic. They proclaim themselves to be the guardian of Kaaba. They proclaim themselves to be the guardians of the tombs of the prophets. What are they
custodians
doing?
Of the Holy Mosque? Yes.
What are they doing? So. And let me tell you, Asma just now said that the Prophet is very sacred to us. Yes, but don't forget, he's also a very, very well respected human being in the other faiths as well, and particularly in the UK. I've lived there 45 years. I know what they think of the Prophet. So the thing is, it is this, these scourge of creatures who have taken over India, this BJP and RSS, and they are the kind of people who are spreading hatred. I'm so happy that White House has taken notice of the violations of the human rights. I'm so happy. At least they've done it. But previously, none of them were even talking about it. So I think we need a unified approach. We need a united approach, and hit this target and give a shut-up call once and for all that these things cannot happen. And when there is such a large Muslim community, do we go and decry decry Jesus Christ? Do we go and decry Moses? No, we are all Abrahamic, so we don't do it. But these people of the myth, they come along and create these all kinds of aspersions. So I think this is a time for unity for us, and these Islamic groups here in Pakistan, I think they need to be given some anti-sleeping pills so that they get up and come out on the roads and protest, because this is what we need. We need not international, national sort of condemnation as far as Pakistan is concerned. Okay, the government has done it, probably the opposition has done it, but these mullahs, I mean, what good are they? You know, they come out as far as when any political gains are concerned, but they must come out when your neighbor is coming out into crying, our most sacred icon. So I think this is a period where we need to be, shelling out everything, telling people of the violations of human rights in Kashmir, the violation of human rights of the Khalsa, of the Dalits, of the Tamils, of the Nagas, and of the Mizus, and of the and in Assam. We need to be highlighting it, and let's not be, well, as they say, penny wise and pound foolish. We need to be going out on the front foot, and that's the only answer.
Now, Yasir Janjua Saab, earlier before the start of the program, I was in fact sharing a very interesting story that in fact I read last night. And the story was from an Indian author, and they said that the Indian government is planning to change the face of their currency note. Like in Pakistan, Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah is on all the currency notes, whether it's of 10 rupees or 20 or 100 or 1000 or 5000 or 500. So the case is with India, Gandhiji is there. Unlike the Americans, they have different. There's George Washington, and then there's Lincoln, and then Benjamin Franklin is on $100 bill. Bangladesh, same, Mujibur Rahman, Mao Zedong in the case of Chinese. But so now Indians are trying to replace it with two names I've heard. One was of some Hindu sir with a long beard, and the other one was Azad Kalam. So, and very pro-BJP kind of a mindset. So, you name universities after individuals, you can name cities after individuals, roads, perhaps certain areas. Similarly, you can name somebody, a hospital after somebody, or an airport. But sir, changing the face of the note means there seems to be a proper, well thought out agenda, a plan that is being implemented and imposed beautifully, sir. The way they are gradually increasing their strength over a period of time, no knee-jerk reaction, changing the face of the note. Not replacing 100%, but what do you think, sir? What is that supposed to mean? That secular Gandhi is gone, is history?
Secular India is dead. Secular India is dead long time ago. And it died at the death of Gandhi, and eventually a lot of people who think Nehru would have made sure Kashmir would have been divided as per the aspirations of the people. He was also sent away. So the secular India is no longer, it's never been there for the last 70 years, more than 70 years. So this, what we see under the BJP government for the last two successive governments, is purely a fascist RSS India. Now you see, this is not, what happened this time is not the first thing. In the last few weeks, you've heard more and more mosques being found out that no, there were temples and not the mosques.
History is being changed.
They're changing the history.
Rewriting it, yes.
They just realized.
They even say that Taj Mahal, I mean, there's another story about that also.
The thing is, this is a proper plan and agenda that they are
So
implementing.
1,000-year rule of the Muslim is actually, historically, which is correct, is really pinching Narendra Modi, correct?
Yes, it is. That's a hard fact. Now the fact is, and they also know it, why they're doing this, because if they don't do this, they know Islam is the fastest growing religion in India. Dalits and other minorities who are being pushed to the wall, they are converting to Islam. And this is really hurting them. And they want to stop it. And the only way to stop it is by force and by violence. And that's what they're doing. So what you're seeing are a series of events, and the changing on the face on the note, the currency note, is part of that policy. However, now you have to read, if you read the Congress view, the people in the Congress do not subscribe to this view. Unfortunately, Modi gets his votes on anti-Pakistan sentiments.
Congress, the way they have lost the popularity, don't even consider Congress as an opposition anymore. I would say that they've been eliminated in almost all the areas. Yes, in the recent elections, what we learned that in Punjab, maximum number of seats were taken away by none other than the Aam Aadmi Party. But in rest of the states, whether you talk about Goa, Uttarakhand, UP or otherwise, BJP is taking over.
Because
you talk about Kashmir, we always
because this as Dr.
talk
Sahib
about
was
the
saying,
demographic
this
changes.
Hindutva
It's
stuff.
been done.
Yeah.
You're late.
So, well, now I have just one question to ask you. When PJ Mir was also saying proactive measures and what we need to do, if the Qatari government can call the Indian ambassador,
Sir, they have got enough money in their kitty. They're one of the largest exporters of LNG.
I'm asking you a
They're
question.
very rich people.
Have we
and they have
called
stood
the
against
Indian,
Saudi Arabia also.
Have we called the Indian ambassador to the foreign ministry and asked?
Sir,
them
we
what's
did
going on?
the charge day affairs, regular SOP. That's
So
what
what
we
I'm
do.
saying is, beyond these diplomatic measures, even if I stand corrected if I didn't, well, if he's been called, so one tick in the box. However, still not enough. We need to go and rally Muslim countries. That we can't just let this.
Why
issue
should we
die
do
down.
it? It is not our problem.
No, Faisal, I don't agree with you on this.
It's
I
a
will
problem
not
of
let-
Muslim Ummah.
It is a problem.
It's not
of Muslim.
Kashmir issue, remember?
I know. But if Muslim Ummah is sleeping, I should just say, all right, since they're sleeping, I can sleep
So
also.
why are you trying to muster their support?
We have to wake them up.
Well,
if they're sleeping,
why
we have
should
to
they wake
them
up? They talk about investing billions and trillions in India.
We must go and make sure we tell them, you shameless people, this is what we need to do.
We should tell them that you're shameless people.
Yes.
With the begging bowl, in our hand, huh?
That's the reality.
Mir
That's the
Sahib,
reality.
Mir Sahib, multiple questions and angles, I mean, are
The
there in
begging
that
bowl is one
particular
part of it.
discussion. Let's talk about it. I mean,
Prophet Muhammad is
no, I understand, sir, but there should be something visible also that should be shown on the television screens, on these Arab channels, on these Muslim channels. I'm sure Turkey is going to be one country that is going to take a very serious stance on this. They always do. But I do not know what's going on. Mir Sahib, I'm sure you must be hearing what sort of conversation was going on in the studio. I want your comment on that, sir. As we used to say, I remember once General Musharraf said, hum thekedar thodi hain.
For a starter, I take strong exception for our Foreign Office to, summon the Shahjeh. I would have summoned the High Commissioner to come, and be in the Foreign Office, not the Shahjeh.
There is no High Commissioner.
Because this is not an ordinary matter. I think, for them to just present their Shahjeh to come along and listen to our complaint, or, a démarche to be written out, no, that is not good enough. I want the High Commissioner to be summoned, because they, whatever happens, Faisal, they've been summoning our High Commissioners, Shahid Malik and Abdul Basit, right into their ministries. So why can't we summon their High Commissioner? Why not? So that's one point. And secondly, I think we need to be dealing this whole subject in a very diplomatic and in a way of sanity. We need to be reasoning out. I mean, what the former Prime Minister said in the General Assembly, I think that was an eye-opener, but we didn't follow it up enough. And, we are so entangled into our own little myopic politics that we forget internationally what is going on. What is going on in Ukraine? What is going on with India throughout? What is India up to? And particularly the role it's playing in defaming us, in degrading us, and of course, conspiring against us in every conceivable way. So we need to be tackling that, because this kind of a business will always continue. And if we expect, or if we would like to expect, that India will respond in a positive manner, so forget it. Absolutely forget it. What they feel and what they think is that by creating insurgency in Pakistan, they'll be at rest. Please let me assure them and reassure them they will not be at rest, because there'll always be reactions from Pakistan in one way or the other. So if you want to maintain peace in this region, you will have to behave in a peaceful manner and in a manner of living as in a brotherly way, which is so sad that they don't do it. So I think what we need to be doing is, now, what is happening? The latest, Afghanis, the defense minister says, now they'll be sending their, soldiers to be trained in India.
Yes.
What is that?
Because
What does that
those
mean?
facilities were already existing. Their students were going there. Their military was being trained in India. And imagine this was the government they had never talked to. I mean, but if they can engage and come up with certain solutions that is very benefiting for them, eventually all those would be used against Pakistan. And you know,
And
we have been
Faisal-
blamed for
Faisal-
something which we haven't done, and you know, as if we have brought in the regime of Taliban, and the Americans, I mean, never even called our former prime minister for three and a half years.
Faisal, and this is the right moment that we have to use the United States and tell them, excuse me, if you do not interfere now, well, you know where we can be headed. So they know the message. They know the message loud and clear. But we don't want to put all our eggs in
Who's
one
going to
basket.
give this message? You or me?
We are most likely going to be, we are going to be expelled from the television for saying the truth. I was just being
absolutely.
told something that
so
was
we've got to
shameful.
be diplomatic. We've got
All
to
right.
be diplomatic.
So let's talk between the lines. Huh?
Yeah.
well, we know
Before
the
I go
line-
on to Asma Khawaja Saiba and ask her to openly tell us, because she has worked a lot as far as India is concerned. She's written so many books. Madam Khawaja, your take, ma'am.
First of all, I would like to mention that people coming on streets and on roads here in Pakistan would be of no use. Because for the
Absolutely, I
sins
agree.
of others, they would destroy the livelihood of their own people. So I don't think it is wise. The wiser but difficult part is the Pakistan's proactive diplomatic struggle to develop a popular discourse in which all those Muslim countries would not be able to refrain or to avoid this incident. And then for that reason, Pakistan can request, someone was saying that why Pakistan should do it? Because Pakistan is the only nuclear Muslim state. Because Pakistan, not for now, yes, our economy is poor.
Madam,
but
this statement, honestly speaking, doesn't excite me anymore. It used to.
yeah, it's okay. But we can go to OIC where the Muslim countries can decide.
Madam,
what
why
they
should we
want
go?
to
They
do.
were all over in Pakistan. A
Because
strong statement
it is
regarding Islamophobia should have been registered.
whether it was
It should have been made mandatory in the
because
UN.
It was whether Afghanistan, whether it was any other Muslim crisis in the Muslim world or anything else, it was always Pakistan which take the lead, which try to find a solution out of the box or facilitate negotiations. So that is our character, and that is the way we lead, or we try to lead the Muslim Ummah. So if all decides that we don't want to take any action, we don't want to apply any sanctions on India, well and good. Pakistan can just ignore
them a
it.
chance.
But if Muslim Ummah decides, Muslim countries decide that, okay, this is actually a very important issue for us, we are not going to ignore it, and this is how we will slap economic, socio-political sanctions
Ma'am, that is
on
such
India.
a beautiful by-book formula. I wish and pray
Of
that
course,
it's implemented.
because we cannot interfere in Indian politics directly or indirectly.
We cannot do anything at the moment,
rules
ma'am.
of game, because the rules of game in which we are existing, they only permit us for proactive diplomacy.
Ma'am, if I was
more
the,
than that.
I tell you, you know, right now what would have been happening right now if this was considered as the most important issue at the top level, ma'am, I would have in fact called a very important and urgent meeting of all the envoys who are present in Islamabad. Forget about the Goras. I'm talking about the Muslim countries, and they are well over 50, by the way, and call a meeting, and you know, a joint statement should have been issued
Exactly.
in each
Very
and
good idea.
every Muslim capital around the world. That would have been an ideal case scenario.
we
But when it
always
comes to
believe-
Pakistan, you can't tell the Nigerians to you know, do this. I mean, this is up to them.
Person, as part of civil liberties, we always believe that no one has right to humiliate or insult.
Madam,
or
that's what I'm
embarrass
saying.
any
These
human
ethics,
being.
values,
So
I mean,
it
these
is
things do not
against-
exist in today's world.
Basic
It's your
ethics.
interest. If you're strong, get it done. If you're weak, have it. Simple as that, ma'am. I think
See-
times have
see,
changed.
here I
That
would
old
say,
philosophy
Faisal-
and the philosophy of the
Faisal,
19th century
USA,
doesn't exist
you-
anymore.
Faisal, USA being a strong country tried to get it done in Afghanistan for last 20 years. But eventually, he applied proactive diplomacy, negotiations, bilateral agreements.
Madam, their
to
agenda
reset.
wasn't to invade Afghanistan. Whatever they wanted, they did it in 20 years.
Oh, really?
They have
20 years
sustained
they
the
were there,
Chinese,
and their
they
agenda
have
was
kept
not
them away,
invading
contained them.
Afghanistan.
They've been able to create a warlike situation which eventually Russia got trapped into. As far as China is concerned, they're very well prepared on two different fronts. One is Taiwan. I mean, whether we like it or we don't like it, this is what the reality is. Last 30 seconds for you, sir.
I have to say,
Can we-
and with
yeah,
a lot of respect
we
towards Dr.
have-
Khawaja, we don't need to be a nuclear state to tell the Indians, you buggers, we'll break your jaws if you talk about our prophet again. We did it in 1948, we did it in 1965. In 1948, our tribals marched into India. And if they talk
Sir,
about
that
our
was
prophet-
1948.
Yes.
This is 2022, my brother.
No. If we are Muslim and we have faith in us, 313 is enough for those jokers.
And every state have their own model.
We should expel their
of
ambassador.
life.
All the Muslim countries should expel their ambassadors. That's proactive steps.
Exactly, I agree.
That's the first thing that should happen. Expel their bloody ambassadors.
There can
Anyway.
be list of things which we can do in proactive diplomacy. Closing our air.
We should all wear a black band on our arms tomorrow
No.
and
Yes.
go to work.
Yes.
Symbolic actions should be taken. I mean, if nothing else. This is what I'm
Yes,
saying, ma'am. Rather than
exactly,
chanting
Faisal.
slogans outside the embassy
Faisal.
and, then the police, what they are
Non-violent
capable
way
of.
to express-
They will fix everybody. This is the unfortunate part. Even peaceful protest cannot be held. But yes, Mir Saab, last 30 seconds, sir. Actually, yeah, go ahead, sir, please.
First of all, I would request all the, overseas Pakistanis in England to go out on the Strand and protest outside the Indian embassy. Go out there and let the world know
Everywhere.
that what they have done. And then the second thing is, let's try out these Omar characters. How much sanctions can they put on these on India?
Mir
Let's see.
Saab, you are such a seasoned journalist. We always look up to you. I, in fact, myself, I really was impressed. And, when I got into media, the
You've
thing is,
grown up listening to
you
him.
know them better than I do. I think this is another chapter altogether. We'll definitely talk about it sometime. But Yasir Saab, thank you so much for your time. Mir Saab, was a pleasure, as always, having you in the show. Khawaja Sahiba, good to have you in the program as well, ma'am. Thank you very much for your comments. And that's all we have for this. I'll see you, inshallah, tomorrow at 8:05 p.m. Till then, you take good care of yourself. But before I go, I'll just say one thing, that this is not a matter between Pakistan or India. This is a statement coming from the government of India against none other than our Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. And I think some stern actions should be taken at an individual basis. I mean, I can always wear a black band on my arm and do my shows till there is a proper protest, there's a proper complaint registered that whatever you've done, there has to be a clarity for that. And in the future, please do not even think of crossing this particular line. We might forgive you for crossing the LOC, but in this particular case, the nation is going to, in fact, this Hindutva nation, whatever you may call it, is going to pay for it. Once again, sir, thank you very much. That's all we have for this hour. Khuda Hafiz.